What was your "this person is on another level of stupid" moment? Dude burned down his convenience store for an insurance claim and stopped the milk and bread deliveries a day before. Going through security and the person says I need to show a different form of ID. I ask why, because I gave them my driver's license. They say I need a US document like a green card or something. I'm a US citizen. Then I realized. I explained how District of Columbia is long for DC. Like Washington DC. As in the capital of our country. I got a bad grade in geography in high school. My teacher kept trying to push me and suggested I talk to my parents about it. I told my mom I was failing geography and she said, how ducking stupid can you really be, Justin? How do you fail geography? It's just shapes. I'll never forget that one. Edit. Thank you all for the upvotes. I started sharing some of my true stories like this one and the Reddit community has been very nice to me. I really appreciate it. Coworker bought a low-flow shower head. He filled the bathtub using the new low-flow shower head because it would use less water. I'm an identical twin and have been asked all manner of utterly ridiculous questions about it throughout my life. But I think the stupidest was when a girl once asked me, do you ever get yourselves mixed up with each other? I responded, are you asking me if I ever sometimes think I'm my brother? She replied, yeah. No, I don't. The time I watched someone who had missed their exit on the highway stop on the shoulder, back up, turn around, and go up the entrance ramp. I could not ducking believe it. Edit. A couple of fun details about this incident to really highlight its stupidity. The next exit was a few miles up the road. Going to that exit and then turning around might have delayed their drive by 15 minutes tops. There was no traffic ahead. I watched this person do this as I was coming down that same entrance ramp to get onto the highway. I work for Parks Canada in Yoho National Park. I have been asked the question, seriously, where do you keep the animals at night? Twice in my career. To this day I still find great joy imagining what they thought was going on each night as we collected every large animal in the parks. Back when the Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster happened, we were discussing how the reactor had failed in a science class. 5 minutes into the conversation a girl piped up and said, I don't see what the big deal is. Why can't we just regrow it? She deadass thought a nuclear power plant was a plant. We asked our classmate to prove she knew the 7 continents. Her list went like this: North America, Europe, China, the Pacific Ocean. I crap you not. Watching a man try to open the locked front door of my shop while a bright red closed sign was literally inches from his face. He kept looking at the door like it was just stuck. There was a girl in my high school who forced the teacher to pause a documentary about people living in mud huts in Africa because she was upset that they were showing us fictional movies in a history class. It took everyone else in the room to convince her that people actually live like that in some places. Wealthy area living for ya. Had someone ask me, is Europe on Earth? How much is a $50 worth? She was the newest teller my boss hired. Will never forget that moment. I was friends with a guy who believed those fake Apple adverts like Apple Wave, microwave your phone for instant battery charge. I was so dumbfounded that he actually fell for it. When I saw him the week after and he had a new phone, it all clicked for me. A friend didn't have coins for a vending machine, but did have $1. She folded up the dollar and forced it into the coin slot and then did not understand why she did not get her item. For me, I had a concussion and was getting x-rays taken. They gave me a lead blanket to wrap around my twig and berries. I took it and wrapped it around me like a cape. I could not understand what they wanted me to do. Knew a girl in middle school that didn't understand the concept of perspective. She also thought north was whichever direction you were facing at the time. Once in middle school, I simply could not get the concept of the phrase "the day after tomorrow" through to a kid. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. Edit. It's swell that many of you know the word "tomorrow." I'm proud of you. This incident was decades ago. I won't be sharing "tomorrow" with him anytime. When I was younger I was mad that everyone else had an accent and I didn't. 3 years later I realized that I did in fact have an accent, and that I was on another level of stupid. Someone in my history class argued that Mussolini was a type of pasta. Not me, but a friend worked in a call center for a CC company in the disputes department. The number one item people called to say they never purchased: interest charge. I used to work with a girl who was sweet but so dumb. We were in a meeting once and somehow someone mentioned baked ham. My manager said, "Ugh, I hate ham. It looks like human flesh." The girl I mentioned was sitting next to me and looked horrified and whispered, "Does ham really come from people?" I worked at a restaurant and we had a dish that was just a whole grilled chicken, chopped into pieces. A woman who ordered for delivery called us absolutely scathing, complaining that her order of one whole chicken only contained 2 chicken breasts. Had to explain to grown-ass woman that chicken only have 2 breasts. Edit. To clarify, the rest of the chicken was also there. She was just expecting more than 2 chicken breasts. She stated this clearly to both me and my manager, who she insisted she speak to over this inconvenience. Me. When I was a kid, I had a real old transistor radio. Asked my parents for a newer radio, so I could receive and listen to newer music. We were talking about the Irish potato famine in college, and this one girl said, "Oh wow, I thought it was the potato family." As if that wasn't enough, she later asked why were they so eager to get jobs. If I was that hungry I wouldn't even try to get a job. Man, I wish I was joking. Rescued a coworker on the side of the road with a flat tire, waiting for the tow truck. I pointed out the nail at the top of their tire. They scoffed and looked at me like I was the stupidest person in the world, and exclaimed, "That's not true, BC, it's flat at the bottom." I just walked away and never brought it up again. A group of late teens sitting outside my building assuring each other that all criminal charges would be dropped when they reached 21. DUIs, drug charges, traffic violations, everything. I walked away shaking my head because they were in for a reality check. I had a coworker who could never figure out what time her 15-minute break was over. We were both bank tellers. I had to explain to a woman that apples did not contain any gluten, meat, or dairy ingredients. How can one think apples contain dairy? She thought gluten was found in every major grain, and that apples were a grain because they have seeds. In high school I met a boy who asked me for a hygienic cloth because he thought he had a period. Actually he only sat on a melted popsicle. Ex-flatmate cancelled the gas and electricity contract because it was too expensive. Wondered why we had no more electricity nor gas. She thought we paid €90 a month to get a hotline 24/7 in case of problem. I got a concussion a while back. A friend of mine told me not to come close because it might be contagious. They weren't kidding. I had to explain to a girl why you couldn't grow your hair down in front of your face and just cut out eye holes. Even explaining it her, she couldn't grasp it and brushed me off as being too smart. I worked at a meat desk for a summer job, and a woman came in and asked if we had any meat without spices or sauces. She then proceeded to tell us that the doctor had said that her dogs got sick because she kept feeding them pizza and they couldn't handle the spices. She then said, "Oh, but they love pizza so much. I feel bad for them. I'm probably still gonna feed them pizza." A rolled coworker was telling me that there's people out there that think Alaska is an island. I laughed in disbelief, but another coworker overheard and was flabbergasted. "What? It's not. But it's always drawn off to the side with Hawaii." Point made. Another time a guy with a really thick accent walked in. Same girl was like, "Oh wow, I like your accent. Where are you from?" Said guy. Have a guess her response. Haviguis. "I've never heard of that place before." And walked away. She is super sweet. Just slightly oblivious. I was a co-hostess with a girl in a restaurant, watching ads on a hanging TV for a new movie. At the end, it said "coming soon to a theater near you." To which she turned to me with wide eyes and genuinely asked, "How do they know where I live?" Edit, there are so many more stories about this chick, but this one summed it up the best. She also had to stop walking to drink anything, or she'd fall over. And didn't understand that not all women have to wax their mustaches, because not all women have them. She was 20. I once forgot to bring my laptop to school, so my mum had to bring it in. My maths teacher was notified, and she sent me a message telling me to pick up my laptop at the front office. But the only way I could see the messages if I had my laptop with me. I was once asked how it felt to come to the US as a refugee. I'm from Germany. She then looked rather surprised when I told her that Hitler has been dead for 75 years, and that Germany is one of the more liberal countries in the world these days. She full on thought I fled Nazi Germany. I work retail. Had a customer a few weeks back pull her mask down to cough into the open air and then pull it back up. Really makes you wonder why there are people like this in the world. The time a friend told me how much he hates potatoes while eating french fries, and I literally blew his mind by telling him french fries are potatoes. I worked at a pet store in college. This customer asked me which food would make his pit bull swole. I suggested a high protein food with a good amount of exercise, but advised that a lot of it was determined by the dog's genetics. He asked me if we sold genetics. When I was in high school, there were these two girls that constantly just blew my mind. One of them asked, what does insignificance mean? And the other replied, why something is significant. The first girl looked at her and went to, okay, I get it. My friend was taking a selfie. The camera was smudged, so we told him he should clean it. He then turns his phone over and began to clean the camera on the back. Then turned it back over and tried to take a selfie again with the other camera. So I was talking to one of my online friends about global warming for whatever reason. I said that my mom ran into an old high school friend that didn't even believe that there was trash in the ocean. We live like 10 minutes from the beach, so you can clearly see evidence of trash coming in from the ocean. Anyways, my online friend one-upped me and said they met someone who believed in global warming, but they were in support of it. I once worked in a Midwestern grocery store deli, and I was trying to explain to a woman that the name brand and generic brand of the macaroni salad that we carried were in fact identical. The woman yelled at me saying she could only have the generic brand because one is made with mayo and the other is made with mayonnaise, and I don't like mayo. When I tried to explain that mayo is an abbreviation of mayonnaise, she just said, I'm from the South. I know my food, and tutted away. I once had two people come up to me arguing about whether spiders exist. At the beginning of the pandemic, a friend freaked out to hear that there was a COVID case an hour away, meaning someone an hour's drive away had been diagnosed. She thought she should get in her car and drive the other direction to keep ahead of it, because she thought COVID, the disease, was approaching like a wave of zombies, and was an hour from reaching her. I met a guy who got hit by a train. Not that bad. But a year later he went to show his daughter where and how he got hit by the train, and he got hit again. High school health class / sex ed. The teacher mentioned saran wrap can be used as a makeshift barrier for oral sex. A girl asked if tinfoil would work too. My mom's friend was adopting a baby from China. After the friend returned home with her baby, she was on the phone with my mom. The baby was crying in the background. My mom later told me the Chinese baby's cry sounded just like a regular baby's. She was legit shocked. I guess she thought they cried differently since they were born in a different country. Dated a guy, we watched Titanic. He thought the movie was stupid because the boat sank. It wasn't believable. You can't recover from that. Ever. I had an ex ask me if the moon was north. A few years ago my roommate was accepted to NIU and texted me a picture of the letter and said, finally get to see a different country. We live in America. My teacher telling me that a private company is just a combination of the words private and company without really explaining the meaning of it. Then telling me that I ask stupid questions. High school teacher here. I gave multiple choice quiz to a student this year. I go to grade the first question, and instead of choosing option A, B, C, or D? He wrote in his own option and circled it. E. I don't know. He went on to do this for roughly 2/3 of the questions on the quiz. I appreciated the honesty, but guessing to have a chance at some points, or at the very least just leaving it blank, might have been a bit wiser. Oh well. Obviously I followed up with the kid to see what the deal was. In the end we sorted things out. I wouldn't say they were on another level of stupid. They didn't do school in the traditional way. Ended up having a great year together. Worked with a guy whose resume would grow every time he met a new person. Suddenly he used to do their job. Swear to God, if he ate frosted flakes for breakfast he used to be a lion tamer by noon. He also loved the saying you gotta be smarter than what you're working with. But obviously that can't be true, because he claimed that he used to be a bricklayer. I grew up in a country where English is not the first language. One day in elementary school we had to write an essay in our English class. I wanted to score an A, so I added a beautiful sentence with some very elaborate words towards the end. The teacher marked nothing wrong, but that particular sentence. She said it wasn't grammatically correct. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I straight up copied that entire sentence verbatim from an English textbook published by Oxford. A coworker started to think that he was going to be fired. But instead of trying to improve his performance or at least waiting to be fired so he could collect unemployment, he just walked off the job during his lunch break and left his badge/work phone on his desk.